Next thing we're going to do is going to start this container. So we can say docker run, which is going to run the image in a container. We're going to flag it for DP, which the D flag is short for detach, which runs the container in the background. The P flag is short for publish, which means that we're creating this port mapping so that we can actually access this container locally. And with the mapping, we're pointing it to a local host here. So 12.0.0.1, and we're opening it on port 3000. Now, keep in mind, this can change. Say you have an application already running on port 3000, but you wanted to run this on port 6000. You can definitely change this, but this number after the colon needs to stay at 3000 because in our Docker file, we exposed port 3000. So to be able to access this, we need to still keep that number to 3000. And then after this is the name of our container. So obviously we're going to name it getting started. So let me copy and paste this, go back in our terminal. And as you can see, it spits out a container ID. I'm going to go ahead and copy this for later. But if we go back into Docker Desktop now, just for a simpler GUI to see, if we go to the containers tab, you can see that a container was created with the image getting started, and it is currently running on port 3000. So now, if we're going to go back here and we want to go to localhost port 3000, you can see that the app is now running locally and we're accessing this container. So that is good. Now we can move on. Well, first of all, what we may want to do is I can show you guys that you can actually write stuff to this. So as I mentioned before, this is a to-do app. So I can say get cat food, take out the trash. Very simple React app going on right now that is inside of a container. So as I mentioned previously, before we started this demo, is that Docker contains a runtime, it contains all the environment variables, and it contains every single dependency that React or this application in general needs in order to run. And so we're siloed inside of a container with a runtime, with this environment, and we're able to actually use the application within the container. There's a couple other commands it tells us. So in the command line, we can run docker ps, and it will name any other containers that are currently running along with their container ID. So as I mentioned, this container ID popped up, but if I type in docker ps, it's going to be the only one running. But if there were any other containers running, we can pull their container ID along with their names and other information. The other thing to note too is that container IDs can be accessed. You don't need the full container ID. You only need the first couple digits here, and you can still access that container.